Welcome back everybody to another video on Rails Automatic Book Reader. So, a special welcome back to all my loyal Code Websters and everyone else is second grade to my subscribers. Alright, so this is our third episode. And today what we're going to be doing is developing a simple script to check how many books someone reads. This will be helpful when we want to develop our own leaderboard. Yeah, a leaderboard. It just hit me last night. Alright, so let's get right into this. So to have this leaderboard work, we want to first add a migration. So last time we explained migrations are under the database, migrate, and then migration, right? So you have one migration, we have several here. So we want to edit our migration here. You're going to add t-boolean, and a boolean basically is either true or false. Read book, and this will be our parameter for whether the book has been read or not. Default, false. So obviously, if he hasn't read it before, we'll assume it's false. So now that we have this migration, this actually won't work until we delete all our data and reset our database. Later on, I'll tell you how to do that without deleting the database. Okay, so all you want to do is go Rails, db drop, db create, db migrate. This drops the database, creates the database, and then migrates the database. Now press enter. You should also be in your Rails directory. This has given me an error, and this is because I'm actually not in my Rails directory. I'll redo that function. Boom, it suddenly works. So this will basically delete it, restart everything, and migrate everything. Alright, the reason we've added this is because we want to actually tell if the user has read a book or not. So now that we've reset our database, let's develop our edit functionality. So what we'll do first is we want a checkbox for each of our new books, right? So if you have 10 books, we don't want to go to the edit and then new book. We just want to straight edit it with checkbox. To show you a bit better, let's go and start our server up. While that's starting, let's get right to it. So first of all, when we're creating any functionality, we need two things, a controller and a route. So we already have a controller for books. Now we just need a function. What we're going to call this function is define, update, read. And what we want from this is we want to get a book edited, right? So what do we need to edit a book? As we know in our update, we need the actual book, and then we simply need to update it with our params. Okay, so let's simply go def update read at book equals book.find params, and that's what's sent through from the view book ID. And book ID here is simply the ID of the book. So essentially what we're doing is, hey, someone's going to send these params. I want to know what those params are, and then I want to find the book with that special ID. Booyah. All right, let's continue. If this book actually updates, we want to go if at book.update. And luckily, Rails handles a lot of the HTTP requests, etc. Book params. Well, if it updates, what do I want to do? Well, basically, I want to just let myself be redirected to the index page. And finally, end. So an if-else statement. So if it's updated, at books equals current user.books.all. And if I'm going too fast for you, the code is actually linked in the description under my GitHub page. We want to redirect. Let's just go down since last time we actually did this already. We simply want to redirect here. So let's just go there. But instead of writing it was successfully edited, we'll say was successfully read. Now, if that didn't happen, we simply want to redirect to our user book paths. So let's just redo that again. We simply want a different notification. So this book was not successfully read. Okay, so that's all good. So now that we have that up, we should just head over to our Google Chrome page, open a new incognito window, because I don't want to show you what's on my tabs, and create route and link back to our routes. So localhost 3000. That will go to the straight page. As you can see, it's being set here. Now, if this doesn't work, I have a hunch for what reason. All right, it's worked. It sometimes takes its time to set everything back up, but if yours is not working and it gives you a database error, what you want to actually do is start your database going sudo service mysql start. Otherwise, we want to sign up again because we did drop all the database. We're going to call this code webda because that's an awesome name. Set a password. I'm not going to tell you my password. Private. And we've got books. All right, straight up now, we just want to create 2 new books. We're going to create one of the book called Code Websters. Author of the book, Code Webda. Number of pages book, 1000. Whatever that number is. Awesome book. Awesome subscribers. That's how we do it over here. All right, so that creates a book. Booyah. Now that that's done, we also want to create non-code Websters. I don't know who the hell created that book. I don't know. I don't care. Join code webda. Bit cheeky, but let's do it. Okay, so now that we have that, we also know it's been created and we have 2 books. What we want to add is we want a little box to be here and just to tick it when it's red. Otherwise, to untick it when it's not red. So let's continue on creating that. Now that we have our update red, we want 2 more things. We want a form and we want our routes. Let's do our routes first. So what you're going to go do is if you're using Visual Studio, or anything actually, go under Config, Routes. And what we're going to do is we need to create read book, which is under books. Okay, so if this is a bit confusing, last time I explained that these resources and routes are explained through how they're written up here. So it's user, then books. So you've got user, then books. So what we want to go is user, books. Then we also want to go to red. All right. So we want to type in patch red books hashtag update red. So update red is our actual function that we've created under the books controller. Red is going to be our actual route. So it'd be user books / red. And patch simply means edit it, right? So you've got create, delete, update, and what was the other one? Red. So what this basically means is in this case, we want to update. So that's patch. So now that we've got all the backend stuff, we actually need to connect this to the front end because there's nothing for me to change it. We've all got the functionality, but how the hell do I do this? All right, so let's go straight down to our actual control. Let's go straight down to our controller, and we should see that update red is here. We edited the actual index page, okay? We want to edit it on the index page. So where is our index page? We go down to our views, books, index.html.erb, and we find with our index pages. Just as last week, we can edit the index page from here. Okay, essentially what we want to do is we want just under book.author, we want to create another row. So just go ahead and type td/td, right? And what you're going to do there is you're going to create a form. So how did we actually do our forms last time? Well, we had an edit form and it was form for current user at book. The routes here were already handled, but we have a custom route. So we're going to do this a little bit differently. So what do you want to actually do is go %equal form with model. And we want to specify what model we're using, and we're using current user book. And this basically means, hey, we're going down to current user and then we're going down to book. And we also want to specify our actual URL because we don't want to just go to the default update one. URL, user, book, red, book. And we also just want to put path for clarity. And this is essentially the name of our route. So what a route does is it connects up the controller and the view. The form links this to the route. And when we press submit, it's going to call that route, it's going to get the params, and it's going to do whatever the hell the controller wants. Once that's done, we're going to refresh the page. So it should be self-evident by now. Now we also want to specify the method. And our method is a patch method. So you want to go method, patch. Let's make this full screen. Class. Let's just call this form check submit. Now we need an end. So there, right? So you've got a form and it ends here. Now what do we want there? Well, we want a checkbox. And in Rails, that's basically just called form.checkbox. Really easy, really simple. We want that to specify the checkbox is going to be changing read book. And we want that class to be checkbox. Maybe we want some styling or we want to do something in JavaScript. That's a foreshadowing, by the way. Okay, so now that we've got the actual form, form. Let's check our view. It should be different now. Everything written correctly. Okay, go back to Google Chrome. Refresh the page. We'll have our stuff there. Okay, we've got a syntax error. Okay, so Rails actually needs you to explicitly say do form because it doesn't know what you're using here. Now that that's handled, let's go and head back. Booyah. All right, so everything's done. So you can actually tick and non-tick the page. Now, we want something else. We don't want a submit button. You know, if I go to edit, I have to actually press an update book. I don't want that. Or if I go to show, if I go to new book, I mean, it wants you to actually press a button. I don't want that. I simply want to tick, read, tick, unread. All right, untick means unread, tick, read. I just want that. So how can we do this? Well, the only way we can do this is using JavaScript. JavaScript is basically a front-end language. Where it's written here is, let's get all that back. Let's go to app, JavaScript, channels, packs, application.js. I've written a small function here which deals with that. So I'll try to explain this function to you. So essentially this says, hey, let's get all the checkboxes because we have several checkboxes on the page. You want to document.getElement by class name. And what's that going to give me? Is it's going to give me like a, let me just put it above here. This is giving me all the checkboxes. Oops. All the checkboxes and forms. So essentially what this does is it gets all the checkboxes and forms, and then I'm going to loop through that, and I'm going to add an event listener to each checkbox and each form on the index page. So I'm just console logging this. You don't need to do that. You need to then loop through this and say, hey, for every class or every object in the checkbox, so I might have 2 checkboxes, 3 checkboxes, 4 checkboxes, depending on how many books I have, and I might have 10 forms, as we can see here, right? So we've got the books each, for each book, create a form, and it's going to have the class checkbox and class form check submit. For every book, I want you to add an event listener, all right? And this is a little bit of wizardry. For that checkbox, which is specified by check I, I'm going to create, or I'm going to submit the corresponding form, formi.submit. All right. So I'm going to give you some time to look at this, right? But the code is actually in the GitHub. So just go on down there and check it out. All right. So now that that's done, let's go refresh this page again. We're going to go here. Now, what we should have now is an error. I'll give you a few minutes to check on why we'd get that error. Let us do some control C. Sometimes it gets stuck. That's normal. Refresh that page. Now, if I press that, you should see red come up. Unpermitted parameter. And Rails is really good with security. It stops any unpermitted parameters. So how do I make this a permitted parameter? So let's go on to our books controller and go down here. We've got params.require book.permit blah, blah, blah. Now, you haven't seen this before, but what it basically means is for a book, the only stuff permitted are pages, names, reviews, and author. That's edit, create, whatever the hell you want to do. All right. If we go back up to update read, it's actually using this. It's a, hey, update this book, but use book params to check if it's updatable. So what I want to add down there is simply a read book. So read book. And that's because the name of the parameter we've added in our migrations is called read book. So similar to our edit page, we've got everything going here as a kind of an update system. So let's go try that one more time. Refresh the page, Control-Shift-R, or Control-R. Click that. And now we've got code Webster's by code Webster was successfully read. And that means it's showing us, hey, you've got one of them done. Now, if I refresh this, you know it's a database system because it comes up with the tick still. Before it didn't. Now, if I do that similar here, you've also got that. So this is all fine and dandy, but we actually want people to know how many books they've read. So let's go and create a new little variable that explains this. So let's go to our books controller, and remember our books controller controls all the stuff. And that's why they call it controller. But all right, straight up, let's go at book ranks equals current user dot books. And we want to only get the books where, so dot where is the actual function, read book, which is our parameter we're interested in, has the value true. So this will cut off everything except where read book is true. Now that we've got at book rank, we want to go back to our index page and we want to use that variable. You can only call variables which are at books or at book ranks. So it has to have an at in front. So let's go here and let's just type just above our, let's say just above our table. We're going to add something to explain what we're doing. So we'll go p style equals color orange, and that just sets the orange color. Close that tag and just say you've read % equal at books, and we can look up here at books ranks dot length, and that just gets the length of the variable. And the length of that variable will basically tell you how many books you've read. So this returns an array with all the different books you've read. And if you get the length of it, that's obviously going to tell you how many books you've read. All right, let's see if this works. So not here. Let's go here. Let's check here. Refresh the page. What do we get? Undefined method length for nil. All right. All right, guys, we're back, and the problem basically was we put books instead of book. All right, I'm sorry for that. Everyone can do a simple error like that. Okay, so that essentially just means we've made a little error there. But if you check your page now, refresh it, you should see you've read 2, right? So we've changed book to books. We've changed books to book. So now if I get rid of one of them, you should see Code Webster's by Cobda was successfully read. You've read 1 book. Now if I get rid of the other one, you've read 0. All right, so let's sprucing that up. Let's make it grammatically accurate and not sound like someone who's from another country. Books, and let's also go down to books controller. Else, end. So if it's read, so that's if it gives me a 1, do this. Otherwise, do this. Let's just say unread. Let's say this is a world we can unread books. Okay, let's just go successfully changed to unread. Okay, so that the error there, it's probably because that's a string. So let's refresh that page. Successfully changed to unread, successfully changed to read. So that's a weird thing as well with consoles, is it actually doesn't give you the number one, it gives you the string one. So we just have to set it to be that string. All right, guys, that's all done. If you want more information, just check out my GitHub page and the code is all there. Other than that, hit me up with the likes and subscribe. And here's Code Webster and we're out of here. See ya, guys.